Section 3. Colors are properties of objects. Sellers went so far as to claim that all of the physical sciences would have to be revolutionized to make room for occurrent colors. But few philosophers have agreed with this. For example, Thomas Nagel writes that, quote, "The subjective features of conscious mental processes, as opposed to their physical causes and effects, cannot be captured by the purified form of thought suitable for dealing with the physical world that underlies the appearances." So, from this point of view, there seem to be qualia, because science seems to have shown us that the colors can't be out there, so they must be in here. Moreover, it seems that what is in here can't be just the judgments we make when things seem colored to us. But, says Dennett, this reasoning is confused. Quote, "What science has actually shown us is just that the light-reflecting properties of objects cause creatures to go into various discriminative states, scattered about their brains, and underlying a host of innate dispositions and learned habits of varying complexity. These discriminative states of observers' brains have various primary properties. Their mechanistic properties due to their connections, the excitation states of their elements, etc. And in virtue of these primary properties, they have various secondary, merely dispositional properties. In human creatures with language, for instance, these discriminative states often eventually dispose the creatures to express verbal judgments alluding to the color of various things. The semantics of such statements makes it clear what colors supposedly are: reflective properties of the surfaces of objects. And that is just what they are in fact." End quote. But, asked Dennett, quote, "Don't our internal discriminative states also have some special intrinsic properties, the subjective, private, ineffable properties that constitute the way things look to us, sound to us, smell to us, etc.? Those additional properties would be the qualia, and before looking at the arguments philosophers have devised in an attempt to prove that there are these additional properties, we will try to remove the motivation for believing in these properties in the first place by finding alternative explanations for the phenomena that seem to demand them. Then the systematic flaws in the attempted proofs will be readily visible." End quote. Part of the demotivation for qualia is to get rid of ideas of qualities. So, for example, according to Dennett, colors are properties which are out there after all. Quote, "In place of Locke's ideas of red, we have, in normal human beings, discriminative states that have the content red." End quote. "We compare the colors of things in the world by putting them side by side and looking at them to see what judgments we reach. But we can also compare the color of things by just recalling or imagining them in our minds. We are able to make such comparisons in our mind's eye, and when we do, we somehow make something happen in us that retrieves information from memory and permits us to compare in conscious experience the colors of these standard objects as we remember them. Quote, when we do make these comparisons in our mind's eye, what happens, according to my view? Something strictly analogous to what would happen in a machine, a robot that could also make such comparisons. End quote. Here, Dennett claims that there is no qualitative difference between the robot's performance of such a task and our own. Quote, the discriminative states of the robot have content in just the same way and for just the same reasons as the discriminative states I have put in place of Locke's ideas. End quote. Dennett is clear that robots don't have any qualia, so by analogy, he's claiming that we don't have qualia either, or at least his argument entails that we don't need qualia to discriminate between colors. Dennett also extends the robot vision analogy to taste and imagines a wine-tasting machine. He concludes that, quote, the sort of difference that people imagine there to be between any machine and any human experiencer is one I am firmly denying. There is no such sort of difference. There just seems to be. End quote.